indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Minutes are recorded to aid in their preparation.
Yeah.
Approval of the minutes for July 6th.
I had given Susan a few corrections to be made, so I'll make a motion that they be approved with said corrections.
Second.
And we're going to move and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor give their consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes approved. Visitors.
Well, gee, it looks like these two distinguished gentlemen sitting here.
Okay. Well,
Is there someone else here?
I'm gonna let's run the engineer's report here and see how it goes, because these guys may have comments on it. Who knows? We'll do it that way. Okay. I'm still debating whether, and I think the board ought to look at it, see whether we want to hear the operator's report first. That way, if there's any comments in regards to it, the engineer would have everything discussed in that format. You know what I'm saying? Because we'd be taking care of our operations and we could make all the notes that we needed, and then maybe you guys could leave too if you wish. Because I know he seems to be in the hot seat here lately. He just came out.
Oh man, I know.
Hopefully we can relieve this here shortly too.
Yeah.
So, but let's go with the engineer's report.
Okay, everybody has a copy of the engineer's report for this meeting? Okay.
You don't. You do? Well, they give.
I gave it, yeah. I didn't know both of them were showing up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Time extension is going to be good till.
We asked, based upon my conversations with Elmer and so forth, I thought, well, I better check into the construction permit for Sunshine Hills with the project looking like it's coming back to life. And it expired originally June 20th of this year. I then contacted DEP in the form of a letter and requested a time extension, and they granted the time extension and issued that new construction permit starting on July 7th of 2016, which then goes for 2 years to July 7th, 2018.
Will we have the ability to renew that again or not?
They will give you so many extensions, and that's it. You probably another extension would be.
Well, by then we ought to know. It ought to be
Yeah.
make and break.
Yeah. I think they should probably give us another one after that, and if we explain that it's based upon funding and so forth. So, then on Sunshine Hills, and the other issue is that on July 21st, Control Systems 21 was on site. They installed the ACPAC off the water meter, and then the data logger, and then the battery for the ACPAC. On June 22nd, I notified Mr. Michael Hess at DEP that we have, indeed, the system was up and running and monitoring and logging the flow rate data. And as I showed you prior to the meeting, we have obtained results. We're continuing to monitor those results, and upon sufficient data, we'll then forward that to DEP for their review and approval, hopefully. And what I'd like to do at that point in time, when we feel that we're ready to submit, is make arrangements to meet with DEP to go through the data rather than just sending it to them, to show the data, explain what we think's happening, and see if they concur or not. So, but I think, you know, they wanted several weeks worth of data, and we'll continue to go that route. What I'm looking at is on the time interval that we're set on now every 6 seconds. I downloaded 2 sets of data just to make sure it was operating and try to get a feel prior to the meeting where we were. If we go every 6 seconds, I think we could probably take readings maybe no more than every 3 weeks. So maybe we go 2 or 3 weeks for the next readings, and then 2 or 3 weeks after that, and then submit the data. Because based upon the memory capacity of the data logger, it's supposed to be 333,000 readings before it starts wrapping around, before we start losing data. So based upon what it's doing now, I calculated about 23 days. We have a memory capacity in there. So if we go every 3 weeks, like every Friday or something, or every 2 weeks on a Friday, I'd rather go every 2, because then if there's a problem, we find out, not that we waited amount,
And how's
significant.
this retrieved?
I have to use this laptop. It's not real easy.
It's not real easy.
And then there's some cables here.
So in other words, it's not one of them simple little processes
No.
where it comes out on gig strip, you just pull it out, put a new one in and keep on running.
Now, here's the cables, and I wanted to talk about that isn't in the report.
You physically gotta go up here with this and download it.
I have to plug this into the data logger,
Put that up on the top of the.
plug this into the computer, go through some menus to then get it to the position where I can download the information. And then you gotta check it to make sure you got the information, you captured it. Then you have to make sure that you restarted the data logger, not that you
Are
left
you
it.
sure you ain't cahoots with DEP? Cause now you're working on it.
Well, I'm telling you, it's not that difficult,
I was
but it
looking
is.
for a real simple little meter, you know?
It
Guess
is-
what?
it is
There wasn't
complicated.
one.
Well, and on top of that, I wanted to pull this out and show you guys, but Jim and I spoke, we thought maybe we should order another one of these so that phone would have this, and but I don't know if you have a laptop.
Well, no, we didn't anticipate,
Yeah.
we didn't anticipate downloading these data.
Yeah,
But it just occurred to me, you've got one cable, and the only way you can interrogate that device is with that cable.
yeah,
And it just seemed that it might be advantageous to have a second cable,
yeah.
in case that got damaged, it got lost.
Right.
Or whatever. And that was just a suggestion, but no, we didn't anticipate
Okay.
we would be downloading these data.
And this is the actual software that can be transferred multiple times to different computers, so it's not like a one and done. So we have the software and we have the cable, but he's right, if something would happen, this cable got broken or whatever, then we'd have to wait for another cable, but it's $136. I got a price from the Control Systems, 21, just for your information. I plan on taking good care of this, or not losing it, but,
Am I allowed
Let me
to
ask-
suggest something?
Good.
He's obviously driving up here and doing that.
I am,
You are. So
I am.
that's costing money.
yes.
I thought it was getting there.
How big of a, like I'm sitting at home with a laptop.
Yes.
I mean, an extra one, so to
Mhm.
speak.
Mhm. If you could have somebody do it here, that would be more cost effective. But it's not,
Well, I'll tell you right now, I can't do it.
oh, well, then if it's
it's a
that
little
hard, then-
complicated in getting in the menus, and I wasn't real sure that's why I've come back a couple times to make sure I didn't screw it up and restarting the device and everything else.
Time out with this.
Go ahead.
Every 3 weeks,
Yes.
okay? For how long?
I figured it's two more times.
And then we're done.
Well, according to DEP, yeah, I think. They just wanted some historical data to
And then
draw
this whole
conclusions.
thing becomes a mute issue.
Pretty much.
Maybe.
I hope so. I hope
So
so.
the amount of money he's gonna spend is gonna be a
Okay,
minimal
yeah.
cost. It's not a long-term expense, okay? That's where I was leading with
Yeah.
this. Instead
Yeah.
of trying to make this thing spend more time and energy trying to make this overcome this cost. Unless this thing goes on for 6 months or a year, I see no reason to address
Henry,
this.
I watched him do this thing. There ain't anybody here that can do it. I can't do it. Jim, I know you can't do it.
Well, if there was a step
Big
one,
Hammer
step
solves
two,
all the
step,
problems with them things.
Well, well, anyway, it isn't simple. It is a
No,
little
it's
complicated, but
not.
I'm not trying to dissuade you
Understand.
from. But again, personally, I think maybe every 2, just in case we had a
Okay.
screw up. I don't know, but
But I mean, I just.
so
wanna
we
prove
go
the point here is
3
that how long
times
it's
rather
gonna
than
be,
2 times. I
The
don't
amount
know.
of money and time, it's.
Yeah.
It's minimal.
Yes.
Okay?
Okay.
And if we can get this thing straightened out down here with Ward, you may be down in there accessing that anyhow, so you might do two things at once.
Okay, I think I got that worked out. Dennis and I spoke, and I talked to Mr. Ward and everything, so.
Okay, so
we'll get-
maybe there's a purpose that we can monitor that till we're satisfied with that in that same time frame. And it won't be just one trip, you know, for one
Yeah.
minute.
Right. Yeah, I don't want to come up here more than I have to, because I don't want to spend your money. I'm not that I don't enjoy being here, but.
And we don't like
You
giving
know.
it to you either.
Well, I know, but that being said, and I showed you the data, we're going to try to see what happens from here on out to try to make a justification for that, okay? And try to explain that. I'm not so sure I have all the explanations at this point, but I'll
Keep
be able
going.
to. Okay. Michael Ward Sewer Project. Dennis and I spoke the other day, and I did speak to Mr. Ward. I talked to him, and he basically told me that
He
there.
had called me.
Oh, after
He had
hit.
called me in response to my letter
Yeah.
in a way or whatever.
Yeah, he told me that.
Of course, he had no idea why there'd be an issue, et cetera, and then I listened to him, and then I thought, you know what, rather than my communicating back and forth between him and Randy, I just asked Randy to call.
Yeah, and I did get a hold of him on the first try after we hung up. And what it is for whatever reason, we're now able to access the data through the E1 system and Century Advisor system.
And you could even do it retroactively.
I believe. I didn't spend a whole lot of time on this because
But you gotta go to the site, or can you do it?
I can do it remotely.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I don't know that I'll have to go to the.
So whatever was wrong.
Looks like it corrected itself.
Right.
But anyway, but as how much it corrected itself, I'm really not sure, because for me to do it, I'm going to have to go back from where we thought we lost the data, which was back in June, and go day by day increments to find out if there's any missing data. Because what it does is it takes from the time the range that you look at from the start date to the end date, it will give you the flow or the runtime for each pump for that. So hopefully from that point on, every day had been.
Okay.
So,
Simple.
Yeah.
This is a little bit more simpler than what we are.
Yeah.
Okay? What's already happened has happened.
right,
Okay, technically, if it's gonna become a bunch of issues, delete and move on from where we're at. You've already dumped it in the system, it's already been treated, it's already gone, it's out. We can start zero here and work out, okay?
Yeah.
If it's just, all we're trying to do is prove whether we got
yeah,
the proper amount of flow that he's paying for. That's all we're looking for. Whether it starts now or whether we gotta go research it,
yeah.
I don't care. I'd sooner start right now and forget about trying to find all the previous information.
Okay,
Because
yeah, right,
if
And-
the fight with a matter of 1 or 2 months here, it's a mute issue.
okay, and I agree, because it could take me,
You could spend a lot more money than what we're ever gonna get back out of it.
well, I don't know, but, because if it's 6 or 7 or 8 EDUs, that could be significant, but the point is why don't we start now, start looking at the data, I can check it more readily and see if there's any gaps, or I hope I
I mean,
can,
right now, we're on a low cycle anyhow with the code treatment plant because of school being out.
yeah,
So the impact it's gonna technically have on us, even though we
Right.
probably should care about it, is gonna be a lot less than what it could be later on.
and initially, and Mr. Ward admitted to this, the gentleman from Site Specific, who's the sales rep for E1 for this area, he showed up on site, and Mr. Ward was there with our inspector, and they found that it was wired wrong, which was giving erroneous readings up to that point, high readings. So we'd want to not look at that data anyway. But in my conversations with Mr. Ward, he stated, well, he goes, we're monitoring the flow rate coming out of our well as their water supply. And he said, we're getting about 2,500 gallons a minute on average on a daily basis. And he says, from him looking at the data coming out of the grinder pump, he's getting about 2,500 gallons a minute there as well. Well, he only paid for 10 EDUs, which is 1,500 gallons per day. I mean, I said per minute, I meant per day. So, but then he said something else. He said, over the course of like 6 or 7 years, he says he's raised an issue with the township where he's getting stormwater runoff coming off of Schoolhouse Road down across his property. He says it hasn't been fixed, but he says during rain events, heavy storm events, high precipitation events, he's getting that runoff where it's coming across his property and it's entering the grinder pump. So anyway, that's what he told me. I just
He
wanted.
had no rain and high water runoff since he put the grinder pump in.
Yeah. So, but anyway, that's what he told me, and so he's kind of leaving himself an out there. I think that it's, but anyway, what we need to do is we need to look at the data and possibly start looking at precipitation events and see if there's any correlation to increase in flows.
This is a waterproof grinder pump, am I correct?
It is, but what it is what we're worried about is maybe sump pumps connecting in downspouts. We don't know. And then what about the things that he said? There was a trailer court there, wasn't there? And he said
Yeah.
he sealed off those connections.
Well, I can pretty much tell you that everything that goes into that system, knowing the way the property is designed,
Mm-hmm.
you would only have an issue with probably, and I'm not even sure if that one has a basement in it. The other one's an exposed basement, huge issue, going around the garage doors.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
Now, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
The garage shop area, I'm seeing very little issues of where you would have my personal opinion, where you would end up having sump pumps and stuff within that.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I see very little with that in rain spells,
Yeah.
and knowing the original owner, the last thing that he would want to do,
Spend money.
as frugal as that man
Yeah.
was, and the original owner.
Right.
Okay, that man would not do anything that was going to impact his
Bottom
line.
Right. Right.
That was red.
So it might be more of an infiltration problem. But anyway, we should start looking at the data maybe on a weekly basis and then try to track precipitation events and see if there's any correlation influence from the precipitation on the flows. So,
I mean, there's good possibilities. There's terracotta pipe in that line.
I'm sure it is.
yeah.
Okay, and with
Yeah.
that being said, we already know what the issue is. That's
Okay.
self-explanatory.
But, you know, and the other thing was I talked to him and said, hey, you know, we want to be able to have access all the time, and you have control of that access. He says, well, if you get to a point where you don't have access, call me and I'll make the contacts at E1 to get you into the system. So, I mean, that's what he says, but, you know, maybe, you know, we still may need a formal agreement that would allow that to happen. I don't know, but so he didn't seem that was a problem. So.
All right, Dennis, you see where this could be heading,
Yes. Yep.
okay? Think
You
about our
want-
options.
Yeah, let's, my suggestion is let's get some data, let Randy get some data, and then we'll visit.
Okay.
I mean, you're looking at a window here, probably by the beginning of the year, we ought to have this pretty well buttoned up, trimmed out, and
You want
all
to
recorded.
start on August 1st?
That's fine.
Okay.
I think that would be fair, and we're not.
Because we're in a whole month then. Yeah.
That way, it's a dry season, okay?
Yeah.
We get to see it, then we'll monitor one over the winter time when there's high moisture, and you'll have apples against apples, and it'll show up real quick what you're gonna have.
Okay.
You'll know exactly what the groundwater surfaces, water is going to, whether it's groundwater impacting it. Very easy, very simple.
Okay.
This is not a complicated
No, it's not.
thing, you know?
No.
It just takes a little bit of time and some patience.
Okay. All right. So I think we can move on to Kincora capacity. You guys had asked us to do that. I apologize. I did it like pretty quickly after.
That's fine, it's self-explanatory.
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions with that? Okay, I do.
Okay. I kind of figured.
Okay, what you're stating right there, that means that Kincora is putting more in than what we projected.
He suggested that we increase their billing by 15 according to the flow analysis report.
Okay, now, and my problem is, we agreed that we were gonna keep 10 as a cushion. So So we need a total of 20. So they somehow they need to concede 4 EDUs of usage. Am I correct?
5 maybe.
Well, if we have 16, yeah.
Okay. There needs to be 20 set aside. 10 for Morrison, 10 for the contingency. Now you with me, Susan? So we're 4 over. Am I correct, Randy?
If you want 20, yep.
Right.
And that's what we agreed on keeping. Okay? Now, we can change that, but now we're tightening the window down. What is the wish of the board? You see where we're at. I mean, I have no problems changing it, but it's tightening it down. And we can do that, and when we need, if we do that at that present moment, anybody that goes over, we gotta come with a strict hand.
Well, that 16 is also reflecting some contribution from Morrison already, so I don't know what that is. Do you follow me?
Well, the flow meter says none.
Oh, okay.
The water meter says none.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, because I knew he was hooked up to some degree. I didn't know.
If it's ran 2 or 3 different times since it's probably been in there, I might be surprised.
Okay. And
Okay,
that
that's
would
my
be.
personal opinion from what I'm hearing with the water meter,
That's correct.
Okay.
okay?
Yeah. Okay, then I stand corrected.
I mean, you got business there, but evidently is not much of a business. 2 guys there. Okay?
So what your suggestion is that Kincora needs to give up?
With what we've always, with the rules that we've held,
So in other words, they need to go back and see if they can cut down on their water use.
You need to
Is
get
that what
to
you're
80.
saying?
yes, they need to control this.
Or we have to change it?
Well, right now, what we need to do somehow, we need to explain to them, they're about ready to top out, and then they're going to pay for the improvements to the treatment plant.
They've
And we
already,
gotta draw the line of what it's gonna be. Once we get to a maxed out limit and they're dumping.
no, I understand that, but he's already, it appears that they've already tapped out. He's suggesting they need another 15.
You know, I think, Henry, you're suggesting that if they need 15, they need to reduce that to needing 11. So in other words, they're gonna have an additional billing irrespective, right?
Well, we haven't billed them yet because we
Right,
said we
understood.
couldn't bill them if we don't have the capacity.
Right,
But he's recommending that they be billed an additional 15, but, obvious,
I mean, it's
that's
not
where I'm
fair.
getting confused, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Okay, see,
15
I'm not
more
even-
than we're billing
I'm
them
not
now.
even talking about that part yet.
Okay,
You're reading into something that's
Okay.
further into this discussion than where I'm at.
okay.
You know where I'm at.
I need to keep my mouth shut.
Now I need to find out where he's at on this. Is this? What I'm trying to say is, this data is from, how'd you get to come up with this data, Randy?
Well, as this was explained in the letter, what we said was we took the 3 years data for, from 2013 to 2015, and we took the 3 months peaks for each of those periods for 2013, 14, and 15. And then we came up with the 3-year average 3-month peak. With that being said, we're 12,579 gallons, basically. Okay. And then what happens is then if you take out the buffer capacity, we're looking at,
Well, just tell me that. For King Core, how many EDUs do you figure there's there? Their total usage right now.
if I'm looking at this right, I think we have,
15 additional.
6 remaining?
well, without the buffer, you have 6.
No.
Wait.
What is King Core dumping into the system at its present rate right now?
Yeah.
See, I don't have the back, I don't have all the minutes here. Do you have June's minutes?
Yes.
June or April? Because in that, he'll say how much.
Who was this, Bill?
Okay, the 12,000, now listen to me, Dan, Randy, the
Mhm.
12,079 gallons,
Yeah,
okay, that comes out to 80 EDUs.
12,579 gallons.
12,500.
579, yeah.
Okay, that changes it.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, let's try, this is May,
Let me just,
Okay.
no, that was, geez,
Okay,
this is
so we're looking for the
May.
engineers, here we go.
it comes out to like 84 EDUs, yeah. So if, and that goes without the 16, so if you had the 16 that we're saying is remaining, that's 100, which is, it's rated for 15,000 gallons per day, okay? So right now,
There's 184 being used now
yeah,
by them.
it appears to be, because you said Morrison's not contributing anything, so they have to be able to probably give
For all
up.
practical purposes, we're gonna make them zero, just for
Yeah.
this situation.
So you're probably looking, because they're like 83.86. So they'd almost have to give up 4 EDUs for the capacity to
Four-
remain.
four
For
EDUs.
90. And in my minutes, I said that's 15 additional.
Okay.
Does that
They're-
make
they're-
sense?
That means
They're
we're
only allowed to
for
hit
75.
60 EDUs
Right,
max.
75 and 50.
No, 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 80.
Yeah, well, that's,
80,
it's, yeah.
yes,
Okay,
80
thank you.
EDUs is what they're allowed to have.
So they bought 80, or they're allotted 80.
What
So
are they,
it's
how many EDUs is King-Core allotted right now, Susan?
Right now, we're billing them for 75,000, 75 EDUs.
75 EDUs.
Okay.
The maximum we can bill them for is 80 EDUs,
Okay.
okay? Everything else from that needs to be modified. Am I right, Randy?
Yeah. When you
Okay.
say modified, you need to,
Reduce it.
Re-
Reduce it, or, well, they're gonna reduce it because telling them they're gonna have to upgrade the system is gonna make them reduce it.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's not a question there,
So
okay?
you have a combination of things. They're using 84.
Well, we're billing them for 75, and
But they're
he's
using
saying
84.
that it should be 90. He's suggesting that they should be
Yeah, I
billed
know.
for 90
Yeah.
Oh,
in his flow analysis report.
where did that, why is that?
Well, because of, that's
That's what it says.
Yeah. That's what the flow said, that they should be billed for 90 EDUs. And right now, they're being billed for 75, so that's why.
Well, that was for 15. What we did, that was for 2015.
Right,
What we did for this purpose, which they've done in the past, is we took a 3-year average for the 3-month peaks. For example, for 2013, you had August, September, October were the peak months. For 2014, you had October, November, December, and for 2015, you had, February, March, April. This was just based on the flows for 2015.
right, I understand that.
So what happened was that, it being the average, the previous years were lower. Okay, specifically 2013. Like, for example, the 3-month peak in 2013 was 11,230 gallons per day. The 3-month peak average for 2014 was 13,061, and then 2015 it was 13,445. So if you take those 3 months, being 2013 was the lowest, whereas 2014 and 15 were pretty close. That's what brought that down to be 86 instead
So
of,
even if you just took.
or 84, excuse me.
Just say we took 15 straight off the board
Yeah,
and used it as its own individual, we're still over.
yeah. You're saying 15 EDUs is the buffer? Or what, I'm not sure.
No, 2015.
Oh, 2015, okay.
How many gallons was there?
There was 1,196, 600 gallons for the 3-month peak flow. And there was only 89 days in that cycle, so it came out to 13,445 gallons per day.
And that's over 80 EDUs,
Yeah.
which is what is the maximum they can be charged for.
Yeah, it comes out to 90. It was,
All right, it's 90 EDUs.
Yeah, it's almost 90.
I think it was just slightly less than 90, wasn't it? Let's see.
Okay.
I'll do the math, because it's in here.
I think we need to talk to these people, see what we can do about this. And explain to them the issues that we have at hand.
Yeah, there's gonna be two components. Either way, they're not being billed enough right now, it sounds like, right?
Yes, 89.
Plus, they're gonna have to curtail their usage.
And we can't charge them for it because we don't have the space in it. If
Well,
we
I guess
charge
you-
them for all 90 plus the other 10 that's on hold,
Well, for
that's
Morrison,
fine.
yeah,
You're-
you're
you're
exceeding the capacity of the
capacity of
plant.
the system.
Right.
So we need to be prepared for those other 10 EDUs when they come on board. Now, we can take it to a 5 EDU cushion instead of a 10 EDU cushion, which takes it to 85 EDUs. But that's really taking it tight. Now, I realize the system is a very simple and should be a tight system. Should not be an issue because of the distance. It's a very short operation, but
That's not the point.
that's not the point.
They haven't added anything on there in the meantime.
No, it's just a matter, they gotta go into conservation mode, and they're not staying in a conservation mode. I mean, that system has not changed, they have not added nothing on that complex for 4 years, probably at least, if not more.
We've had an issue with their readings for the, he's saying he's using 213 and 214. Remember they said about how the meters were all screwed up? And then finally in 2014, I think Ed came in and said, no, he's going to stand by the things, but we didn't raise their billing for 2 years because of,
Questionable meter readings.
questionable readings. So now it sounds like, all of a sudden the meter, the meter
What
might
I'm
be-
trying to say is we need to correct this issue. And what is the wish of the board to correct it? Before it gets out of hand? And you agree, Randy?
Yeah, and just for your information, from 2014 to 2015, we were averaging over that 3-month peak, 384 gallons per day more in 2015 than in 2014.
Are we reading their water, are we monitoring their water meter at all?
Yes, Karen goes up every week and reads 2 kinds of meters
Every week?
every month.
Okay.
But they played some games and he wouldn't talk to her, Mr. Himmelberger.
Mhm.
They changed the water meter. We didn't know when. All of a sudden the reading, they changed the water meter, but we don't know what the old meter reading was last year. It got all screwed up and she asked him a question, he got smart with her, and so then we asked Sam to talk to him and he said he wasn't the field operator, and I don't know. Things are a mess with their water meter. There's no doubt about it.
You're talking about the meter on their well.
The one that they put on is one that, yes, Ed stands by our flow meter, and that would be what the engineer's using is our flow meter reports. They put a water meter in to see if we were doing it right, and the numbers just never jive.
Okay. That's what I'm trying to say. Maybe I need Mr. Himmelberger's phone number.
They might have some infiltrations. Maybe.
And if you can forward that to me, I'll do my best to get a hold of him, okay? Don't need it now, Susan, send me an email.
No, it's not that. I'm looking for an agenda. That's where I write my to-dos. Okay.
That way we can move on with this. I'll explain to him the concerns that we have and where this is going. And before we want to work with these people. I mean, let's face it, they were the ones that ended up putting the system in up front. I'm not here to play hardball with them. Same atmosphere, there's guidelines that we have to operate under.
Right.
We cannot recklessly.
But they're only paying for 75 too, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing.
That's-
And they're using 80s.
Are we talking
Well,
about
they
just usage charges, or is there also a tapping fee component too?
Well, there would be a tapping fee. See, you asked us to dig up a letter a couple months ago.
Okay,
In
that's good.
2012, we wrote them a letter saying 60 EDUs is their starting basis for their capacity. When additional EDUs are needed,
60,
they
you
will
said.
have to be purchased at the rate in effect at the time.
You said 60, right?
Yes. And you decided that in 2012.
So they have purchased 60.
Well, that's because they build it.
Okay.
This is one of those
I
things that
understand.
the authority, I guess, granted them 60. I forget how you did it in
But they're using,
2012.
Say 80.
Well, now they're up to 90.
90, well, all right, so you got a couple.
So there's
providers.
30
Three
EDUs.
And we've already sent them bills for 75, so they paid 15 in?
No. No, it was just a couple months ago that you asked for this, had we ever sent them any kind of letter? So between 2012 and now, things just got forgotten about.
So there may be a tapping fee adjustment from 60 up to some number, usage charge, and then an issue of conserving,
Yes.
cutting back on usage.
Well,
You gotta,
yeah, cut back, I mean,
Yeah, they're
the
gonna have
usage
to-
cutback is gonna be the way to do it, and they can do that. That's not an issue, they've done it before. We've went down, we've made concerns, made statements, and they've rolled back, okay? They just need told to do it. It's controllable. It just might not be controllable to 60
right,
use.
yeah.
Okay, I see it going backwards, but I don't see it going from 90 down to 60. I see it maybe going down over a long time frame. You might get it down to 75. I mean, they need to go to water conservation modes. There could be flushometers hanging up and sticking and carrying on in 2 or 3 bathrooms, and it wouldn't take much to make it go over. Would not take much at all, would it, Lou? No, it adds up quick in a 30-day time frame, real quick. Okay?
Would you like to have Karen scan? She has a spreadsheet where she keeps all of her readings for them. It's the flow meter, and then in the next column, it's the their water meter every month. Would you like,
print it out and tell me it's in my bin, I'll come up and get it.
or she can scan it and email it to you. Okay,
Fine, either way, don't
Alright.
matter,
okay.
don't matter, either way. I'm gonna have to print it out one way or the other, so.
Might as well let us print it out for you. Okay. I'll write copy and put in your box.
Yeah, let me know it's there. Leave his phone number with that and everything else, just send me an email that everything's in my box for King Core and I'll come up and get it.
Okay,
Put it in a packet or however you wish to do it, okay?
yes.
Any valuable information. I'll just have to stop in on the way home, it's not like it's out of my way. Okay? You wanna double check some numbers on me, Randy, to make sure we're right with this? It might be a week and a half till I get to this.
Yeah, let me, no, because
I'll
what we did, Henry, based upon the letter that we took the 15,000, took out the 1,500, and then based upon that, we took the 3-year average based upon 13, 14, 15. Now, if you want us to do a 2-year average, you know,
we technically gotta pull 3,000 out of this and say,
Yeah.
this is all you get, King Core.
yeah. So, yeah. So, I mean, I can't see much, if you want 20. So it's basically a measure where they gotta cut back on their usage, yeah. So, I don't think it's anything complicated,
No, I don't think it's complicated. It's a matter of just
yeah.
giving them a chance to roll it back,
Yep.
stabilize it, and then we're gonna turn around and say, okay, we'll give you the opportunity to clean this up without being in financial impact on you. Clean it up, get it to where we can, and then we'll discuss whether we gotta bill you more or not. But right now, you're at 60 billing EDUs is all we're charging them for.
Well,
right?
and right now they're at 89
Well, that's not
points.
correct. That's all the topping fee they paid. They're being billed for 75
On the rental.
for the rental charge, you understand, okay?
Mhm.
So they're being charged based on 75 EDUs.
Okay.
That was approved last year after the 2014 flow analysis report.
That's what I'm getting at. That's the bottom line number. Right now, 75
That's what they're
EDUs, they're at
paying.
90, so there's 15.
There's
That
15
they
in there.
need, that they need to roll back 10.
Yeah, yeah. Because if you take that 2015 number, we only have 10 EDUs capacity, which then if you put Morrison on, then you're done. If they get all their 10. So there's no buffer in there. Based upon 2015 number by itself. That's how that report read. That's why it came up like the 90, but it's actually like 89.6 something. It's 89.7. It was just rounded off.
Okay, so they gotta roll back 1,500 EDUs. Or 1,500 gallons.
Yeah.
Per day.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're not maintaining their equipment stuff, it don't take much.
Right.
I mean, with a complex that big, it wouldn't take much one end of the building to the other building, and the nurses and stuff, people don't know that.
Well, they'll
It's a
leave a
maintenance-
faucet run for 10 minutes because they're,
It's a maintenance crew.
Yeah.
Maintenance crew needs to go around and take care of it, you know, and that's what they have a maintenance crew for.
you
They
know,
clean it up, take care of it, okay? All right, next.
All right, the last item that I had here was Matt Baum grinder pump replacement. As you recall, Mr. Baum was here at the last authority meeting and made a request that we evaluate the information on the Keen pump, and he gave me the pump curve information. With that information, I went back to the office, pulled up the E1 information, and compared the two. They're very, very similar. I generated an email memorandum back to the authority for the JOAC meeting the next following Monday. And I said that, you know, we're good with the match on the curve, but then I think we added that there's some responsibilities that Mr. Baum has to be willing to accept, in that maintenance, operation, and replacement and performance is all up to him. So if it doesn't perform, or, you know.
It's his dime anyhow.
That's right.
And basically, we kind of gave up a lot of our responsibility when we agreed that we wouldn't be taking over grinder pumps.
Yeah.
Okay? With
So-
the exception of complexes that have plans of being future taken over,
Right,
such
that
as
are
Ward,
dedicated, yeah.
such as Morrison, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They need to build underneath our criteria.
So with that being said, I made that recommendation to you guys, and I don't know if you acted on it or
No,
not.
they didn't.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess maybe,
Would anybody?
Let me, before you do, I looked at the rates, rules, and regs, and what that says, section 3.170, among other things, the last sentence says, the grinder pump shall be an E1 or an equivalent approved by the authority.
So we're.
So you wouldn't have, you could change the rates, rules, and regs and add E1, Keen, or an equivalent, or you could just do an approval by motion, as long as somebody tracks it and knows that, a Keen is now okay.
Take this on.
Assuming that's the way you
Take it on
vote.
step by step.
Yeah.
Time by time.
well, there's 2 Keen pumps. We want to make sure we get the
Right.
correct one.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so we'd still want to
He wants
probably,
to make sure he gets it correct,
yeah, well,
because if it don't, it won't work,
well, exactly,
okay?
yeah.
So
I
he
mean,
needs the
we're
Keen
paying-
centrifugal.
It's a progressive cavity.
That's it.
We're paying
what they-
you to engineer his
Yeah.
pump that he wants to replace an
Yeah.
E1 with, is basically what's happening.
That's right.
That's all we're doing.
And from what he submitted, that was the pump that he was planning on using, so we call progressive cavity type pump, and that's what I included in my email, because they had a centrifugal pump in there too, and you don't want that.
Right.
That's not going to work. Okay.
Mhm.
But they were showing both pumps on the information, and it is a very close match to performance-wise. So
So he-
Quality, I'm not so sure.
He was pretty sure what he was talking about that night.
Yeah, yeah.
Evidently, he did his homework then.
Yeah, it looks reasonably close. I mean, it's real close for most purposes, so.
What's the wish of the board? Want to make a motion that we allow him to install the pump as requested?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Been regularly moved and seconded to accommodate Mr. Baum's request for the said pump that he submitted for. Any discussion? All those in favor, give their consent by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Now, Susan, you'll have the particulars of that description of that pump, right?
Yeah, it's in my email. It's what I included in that
And I think
description.
I printed that out, in which case I think I'll just throw it into the, rules and regs with a note that it had been approved that day.
That would be probably a good idea, so that at least it's visible, and the board doesn't have to revisit this whole thing about
Yeah.
evaluating the pump if somebody else comes in and wants the same thing.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
I don't think you
Okay.
necessarily have to rewrite
I mean, you
these.
may have another gentleman that's working on a system right now, he may do the same thing.
Yeah, you could footnote it or something, I don't think they really have to revise it. Because you already provide for approved equivalents.
It's gonna be his responsibility.
Right. And we made that clear, it was in the minutes, to him.
That's gonna come up here in a couple of months, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, anything else, Randy?
I believe that's it.
All right, let's run through the operator here, you can stay for this. If you have any questions in regards to what was going on up at Sunshine Hill or anything, you're up.
Okay, let's move through this rather quickly. Generally, things ran pretty well in the past month. No huge headaches. Let's see, work items undertaken at the Cove plant. We replaced the pressure switch on the hydromatic tank. We were out of water one day.
Just wore out.
Yeah, just wore out. Kinkora, we ordered the refrigerated low proportion composite sampler, and we've built the enclosure to house it. It's a very nice enclosure. It looks a lot like a very small privy without the crescent moon on the front door. So it's ready to receive the composite sampler when we get it. We should receive that probably in about a month. A little pulse counter that goes with that thing is back ordered. So as soon as that's received, then we can move forward with the installation of it. Sunshine Hills Water Company, we're all familiar with the construction up there. We were on site with Culligan a couple days to observe the construction that took place. Lou has prepared a little sketch. I didn't bring it with me today, but we'll turn that over. It is not an engineered drawing, it's simply a sketch with dimensions or notes.
I think there's probably some photos, right?
Yeah,
There's some photos.
I got some photos
There's
too.
some photos.
It doesn't need to be real complicated.
And then there was some, after that work was done, the mandatory call form samples were collected, and they were satisfactory to DEP, so that's all over. There are some outstanding items. We're in the process of scheduling Kleins scheduling and to procure a quotation for the work to do the flushing in that area up near Mutzabaws. That's in progress. We're also trying to get together, Lou and I, get our schedules together to go around and do the inspection, so we can put a little report together for you guys on the existing pumping stations. We talked about that last month. So, problem is, we're at different ends of the planet most of the time, so we're trying to get in one place at one time. So that'll happen rather soon. We are awaiting responses from IJ Tech on some things, and there are 3 items there. And the first one is not the Kinkora wastewater treatment plant influent pump 2. It is the Lower Duncannon pumping station pump 2. And unfortunately, the secretary did not prepare this memo that well. And my understanding is good help is hard to find.
I gave him the information, but I've been on drugs for 3 weeks. Not that I'm any different on it.
Also, they pulled the equalization pump 1 at the Cove plant, so we're waiting for a report on the condition of that thing, whether we can just make a repair to it or whether we need to replace it. And we're still looking for a proposal from them to install a redundant high water alarm float switch in the wet well at the Cove pumping station. There is one thing, I'd like to go back to the Sunshine Hills Water Company. And I have a question. It goes back to that meter, Randy. The flow meter itself, the actual meter that's down.
The sense, yeah.
The census meter.
Yep.
Does that require electrical power for its operation?
I don't think it does. I think it just requires for that,
That's a digital display.
yeah, that I can't, I'm not 100% sure, but it may. And I can check with that. That was one of the whole issues why we're going from the meter to the ACT pack, which is part of that display, I believe.
Right, but
And
the device on the pole does not give any information about the total flow for.
No, it doesn't.
Right.
And what I thought when we were out there, we could visually, when we took the lid off, you could visually see the readings on the meter. And I think what we talked about at the time was we were going to start taking the meter readings from that meter starting in August
1st.
because it was the start of a new month.
Correct.
Yeah.
So my question really was, the battery, the power is required to get a reading on that display.
It may. I'm not 100% sure.
Because
And
right now we're replacing this battery twice a week.
Right.
And that is a real pain in the ass.
yeah. Well,
So-
what it is.
Randy, stop.
Go ahead.
You know,
It's not
okay.
a battery, it's a.
No,
car
it's a
battery.
big battery.
That we
It's a
have to
marine
take
grade
out-
battery.
Take out twice a week.
So we do need the battery to have the display function on the.
I would think
What we would
so.
like to do, and we would like to research a little bit, and maybe Randy, you could provide us with some input. We would like, since this is a temporary operation, that's my
Mhm.
understanding, this is not forever,
Right.
we would like to get some direct-to-bury Romex cable, and we want to put a plug on one end of it. We're going to plug it into one of the duplex receptacles inside the well house. We're going to drill a hole in the steel side, and we're going to put a waterproof grommet in there. Take that cable out, run it underground. We're going to come up. We're going to drill through the side of the cylinder that's got the meter in it. We're going to put a grommet in there, and we're going to put the trickle charger down there.
Battery tender.
Right. That's the only thing we need to check really is do we need any kind of protection between the trickle charger and the electronics?
Yeah, I'm
So
not.
that's a question to answer, but
Yeah.
holding this battery around, charging it.
Well, you won't lose that reading either.
Well, the thing is, we talked about something similar to that effect with Control Systems 21, because they really, we told them we weren't running power out there, and then they got, because we took power that they were supplying to the data logger, and we made that a battery operated device. So, however, they didn't connect the dots to get power to the head or the whatever. There's a device
We'd
in
let it put power in if we knew it was going to have this much draw to it.
Well-
we think we can do
We
this
can do it
relatively
pretty
inexpensively.
Well-
We just want to make sure
Yeah.
we protect the electronics.
Yeah.
but
If it doesn't hurt the electronics, yeah.
Well-
Here's what I'm getting at. I'm glad you're speaking that way before we, as a board, since we volunteered ourselves, I don't know if you remember that, to do the landscaping out there.
yeah, I remember.
Some rough
Yeah.
stuff.
Well, a lot of rocks up there.
Yeah, there is.
Many
That-
rakes.
Okay, but what I'm trying to say
A lot of
is
rocks.
now's the time to do it before we landscape it.
Exactly. Well,
It's
but,
gonna be direct bury material.
Yep,
We're,
yep.
we're only gonna go down maybe 6 inches. We're not
wow,
gonna
see,
carry-
those were all discussions I had with Control Systems 21. I said, well, what's it gonna take to get?
It'd make a
Pow.
lot easier.
And they said a lot more money than what we're gonna cost for the battery. So,
We should put a piece of room next to it.
well, they told me, I told them maybe 12 inches below surface, and they said, no, that's not gonna fly. It has to be at least 18 to 24 inches. So we went, well, for them to install it, because they want to put it in where there's no liability. But, so, those discussions were somewhat evaluated, and I said, no, we're not going to spend $1,200 or something to do that.
I don't think solar's gonna take care of this, not with the power bill.
Yeah,
Yeah, we looked at solar.
We looked at
no.
It'll be about $2,800 installed.
$2,800 for
Yeah.
the solar.
And I said, well, let's keep it as
Just for a
sturdy
little
and
solar
cheap.
panel, it's gonna keep that charged up.
That was their price. My son bought one for his camper for like $89.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, just go to Harbor Freight and put one, but anyhow.
So-
But we, if on a temporary basis, to eliminate this juking around with this green
Yeah.
battery, every,
It's a
I
big
agree.
battery.
I
Just
agree
need
with you.
that safety factor. Will it hurt anything if we can find that out?
Well, we can find out. But the other thing was, we were hesitant to put anything in the existing subsurface chamber, being that if one of the tanks blow, we have an issue. We got bigger issues than the battery.
what difference
But
is it gonna make? There's electricity
Yeah, all
down there
the other
now.
stuff,
Yeah.
it's gonna blow the brackets.
Yeah,
All
it's
the
gonna,
breakers are
it's
gonna
gonna
go.
trip out, it's
Yeah,
a huge issue.
everything out.
but I mean, we don't want to have some type of, make it not a less desirable situation,
Well, we can
So-
put a ground fault in up there over in the pit and install it.
The only other option would be is dig over the panel box. And run a line direct clock from there,
We were just
which is
looking
the
at-
other way.
We were just looking at cost and.
Yeah,
it's
which
temporary,
is
but we
over
don't
the other
know
way.
if-
I
that's
don't
why
know.
we got
If the meter
that.
needs power after.
That's why we got the
that.
battery, because of cost and the short-lived nature.
I like the direction you're heading with that.
This hauling this battery around twice a day is a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And it's not something we sign on to
And-
do. We
right.
really don't wanna
Yep,
do this.
yep, I agree with you.
And the
I
battery
have no problem
life
with-
is
What's the
about,
wish of the- what's the wish of the board? Doing the suggestion Dave suggested?
Put the power in if it doesn't hurt anyone.
It's not gonna hurt anything. It's just a matter of unplugging it from the outlet if it don't work right.
Yeah, we'll need to work with Randy and the equipment supplier to
Yeah.
make sure we,
Just do it.
whatever protection is needed
That is
between the
correct.
trickle charger and the device that's being powered by the battery, that's isolated, satisfactory.
Make a motion to do it.
Second.
All right, regular moved and seconded. Any discussions? All those in favor, give their consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay? I like your simplicity of it.
That is all we have for you tonight.
One thing, I'd just like to, on behalf of the residents of Duncan, or of Sunshine Hill, thank you for keeping that project short, because it went in on Monday and we're back online before the weekend.
Mhm.
Well, the guys at Eichelberger did it really, Randy was there,
Yeah.
they were really.
Yeah, they were.
They're a good guy. Eichelberger's
quick.
does good work, and their guys
Good
are
work
good
with
work.
those two.
Good guys, so.
The lab work was done in 2 days, that was great.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
He didn't realize it was-
looks like he's just trying his hardest to get it done, but
And it made my
sometimes
life
labs
happy.
don't work with you.
You did good.
One question I have.
I had nothing to do with the installation.
You did all the legwork.
One question I have, I understand we had a water interruption last week.
I think so.
Uh,
I've got 24 Eisenhower.
That was Sam was overseeing, this is what I took from our conversation on the phone, an installation of, I guess, a private line up there at whatever address. He discussed with me several times, and I discussed with our water guy the importance of protecting you all from them not reporting it and something happening after the fact. He said that he's done it in the past, he didn't feel it'd be a problem, and it wasn't. They
Okay.
just pinched the line, and then, I guess, they crimped it, and then they uncrypted it. So the water was never shut down, it was never,
Yeah.
the pressure was never lost.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't.
All we did was advise Sam that, we just want to say it, because you know, we're operating it, and if you decide to shut it down, lose pressure, and don't tell anybody, and you have an unhappy neighbor who says, I'm tired of this, and calls DEP, they're gonna wanna know why it was never reported
Okay,
in advance. and
because
you
I
may
got
get
the
a
call
nice
and I
fine.
wanted to know, I wanted to hear the answer. It came out of that call because I've not heard anything.
That is what Sam told me, and there was no,
What was the work that they needed to do?
it was the address.
It was 24 Eisenhower. It's the house that just got sold for sheriff's sale or whatever, or just got, it's up for sale, but it was just paid off. Blumenstein, I think
they
was the
were putting
guy's
in
name.
a new,
And they
valve
needed to
in
do
there.
something with water in the house, and they thought it was their line, but it turned out that it was our water, it was the curb valve.
Yeah, the curb valve. I
And
think
so
they replaced it.
Jody went up, I think, and did the work.
He didn't say who was doing it. He said he was on the site. Don't worry, Lou. We're not gonna lose it. And I said, okay, I'm just trying to
Yeah.
do the best to keep
Now-
you from getting whacked. so to
There are
speak.
ways that, Jody did that once before, or
He said what he did is he used a crimper, because I said I've never heard of it, and they crimped the line shut, did what they had to do, then they can reverse this crimper and they put it back in shape and it didn't break.
Okay, so basically it's a piece of soft copper.
It's-
They
it was
squashed
soft
flat,
copper.
Then they turn around with the other
Turn
way
around and
it backed
switched it
up.
the other way. So everybody lived happily ever after.
So they restricted the flow because we couldn't shut our curb
Yeah.
blocks down.
Right, I think that's. was the
Lanker
way-
had done that once at Petersburg Commons. And Ed
He's-
was impressed that they switched something out and they didn't have to shut off the water.
Amazing.
We were a little nervous because I got the notice, and then, of course, our operator said, well, wait a minute, if you're gonna shut the water and lose pressure, we gotta do what we gotta do. So then I got Sam, and he said he worked on it.
And I agree, it was a safety thing, okay?
Yeah.
Glad to hear that everything worked out better than expected. Thank you. Okay, is there anything else for either one of these two? It's 8 o'clock?
Oh, just for, the green has gone away again, for quite some weeks. Just saying.
Thank you. I wanted to ask
We're
about-
happy it went away. I don't know where it went or if it'll be back, but,
Wait till tomorrow.
yeah, it's nice to see the water going out, it looks like water and not green. It went away.
Please, DEP, come real quick.
Huh.
I don't,
Have you noticed any difference in our flow rates at the treatment plant since they shut the car wash down?
Just the school,
yeah, they're lower
made a big
since the
difference.
school. was
shouldn't
starting
have.
now, it's so dry.
The billing was just about the same as it was in March. I was expecting to see a big difference in the billing for this month, but when Karen read the meter,
For what, the water meter?
Yeah.
I think they-
At the car wash?
yeah,
It didn't change.
it was, no, it went down, but it didn't drastically go down.
I believe they recycle a lot of their water, most
Yeah.
car wash.
Yeah.
Yeah, that has a
So
recycle.
we haven't seen, you know, just the school and the dry period.
But they are gonna terminate that car wash, right?
I don't know, I put that on my.
That's what Helen said it happened.
I mean, it's not
According
being
to the
used
plan.
now. It's used as,
For
it's used.
storage,
it's used
but I
for
can't
storage now.
imagine they're not going to redo that.
Not, I can't, because I know it's, I see a lot of maintenance trucks in there. It's a high maintenance issue.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there is no doubt about it. I mean, they got people in there all the time servicing that thing, and I have a matter, it may be making money, but it's also costing money. You know what I'm saying? So when you start balancing it out, it's just as easy to pull the plug and forget about it. That's what I think is gonna happen to it. They may upgrade or something, but, okay. Is there anything else for the operators or the engineer?
Uh-oh.
Have a good trip.
For me.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Run while you can.
Good night, ladies
If
and
you see
gentlemen.
Thank you
anything,
for
Randy,
everything
in
you do.
regards to King Core that you think might not be right with what we discussed, let me know.
Okay, yeah,
Because it's gonna be a week,
Number 6.
yeah.
probably gonna be at least a week before I get a hold of him.
Good,
I'm
because
about ready to go to it.
I'm not gonna be here tomorrow to talk to Karen, to have,
I'm
now,
probably working overtime next week, and
I need to go see Mother tomorrow,
I'm
so.
hoping that
Ears
we
been shut, my cough and
push that under the
I-
table for 2 weeks.
Generally, it hasn't felt good for a while.
Okay. DMRs, master reader reports, they're in the
We're ready
folders.
to go to a snake doctor.
Nobody had any
We'd stop you.
things about it. Field representative.
Thanks.
I got a text from Sam a little while before the meeting that he got a call from Jody, who was on a service call and would not be able to make the meeting.
Do you have any idea what Jody wanted to talk about?
Well, the first thing when he asked to talk to me was, he said he knows that there were a lot of invoices. He said that's just the way it was. They did a lot of work. And he'd be willing to take, and we would only pay him half this month and half next month. I said, hey, you know, I said, no, we're gonna cut the check and be done with it.
Yeah.
Then he wanted to talk about, he said a lot of I&I. And he changed from that to that place, down at Fours. There must have been some problem down at Fours recently, because he was down there working.
Down
And I
where?
know at Fours, not this Fours, but the
Oh,
old
that's a
Fours.
holding tank.
Down at Fours car lot, the old,
The old lot.
the unused, the old.
Where the quail call used to be.
Yeah.
Or where the motel used to be.
There
I
was-
saw the picture of it.
There was sewage coming up out of the ground or something.
Yeah,
Something
pumps
was,
full.
something was put in wrong.
Yes, and so he wanted that, so he switched from that, from saying about I&I to, he's got a lot of concerns. He was talking about those check valves being upside down and this and that, and I said, and that the system wasn't put in right, and we knew that. Anyway, those are the few issues. Now, what he wanted to talk about I don't know. He just said he had some major concerns.
What pictures?
Sam had some pictures of it. I saw him at the VFW for dinner the other night. He was there, he showed me pictures of it. And there was a valve turned sideways or something that was leaking, or that leaked.
There were a lot.
A water supply valve or?
No, sewer line.
Sewer line.
It was at Foresville lot down there.
That's an old Maris connection pump that slides down in, that's,
In the car lot?
Yeah.
The hell is it doing in the car lot?
Didn't look like the pump for me sitting on.
no, there was an old Maris pump system down there. That's what was
there
in
a
there.
building down there or what?
There used to be, when they used to have the storage, when the trailer was there, when the car lot was there, Elmer.
Yeah, just a couple
Oh.
years
You remember
ago.
when there used to be a car lot down
No, I
there?
don't, but that's all right.
Right across
I
from-
don't remember a lot of stuff, so.
Right across from the car wash.
All right.
But
I'll
that
take your word-
paved,
take your word for
that
it.
paved area down in there is when they used to have the car lot in. Okay, back in the back side there's an old Myers pit in there,
Oh.
okay?
Hmm.
And everything on the outlet side of that thing was existing from whenever. And the inlet was changed around and piped into, okay? But evidently there must be an exposed check valve inside that thing that is not checking.
He didn't say
It was
anything about,
leaking.
yeah, he didn't say anything about a grinder pump problem. He just
No.
said that, you know, something
Well, there
wasn't
should
hooked up
be a
right.
valve somewhere that would isolate that thing off,
Well-
somewhere, I would imagine, because that whole side is hot, and that was never touched. I can pretty much guarantee you that side was never touched on that system when Ford did that. I can pretty much vouch for that one. Because it was, the charge side of that, however they were ever put in, that was put in, well, if that's a Myers, that's put in on the original system.
Yeah.
When the motel was there, the motel was hooked up to that,
Correct.
okay? So that was all installed back,
I remember the motel.
yeah, well, okay, now we're talking about good times, right, Elmer? Now, that's a bad sign, Elmer.
Oh.
You know what happens when
Geez,
you
that's what
start,
my wife says too.
you remember all the old stuff, but nothing new.
When, would you like me to get in touch with Jody, have him kind of send me a synopsis of what he found, and then I'll
Just-
forward it to
You
you?
catch up with him, you might wanna have him give me a call,
All right.
you know, tell him to call me some evening after 4:30, 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock's probably better.
Okay. And talk about
then
Ford.
I'll, once he explains it to me, I can announce it at the JOAC meeting or something and
Okay.
make a discussion of it. That way I can put it in layman terms.
If you run across Sam, just ask him to show you the picture.
Because that side's the hot side of that system, and I'm pretty sure that when that whole project was done, I remember drilling a hole in the side of it and putting the drain line into it. Because it just goes over and dumps in the tank, and then the pump lays in it, it's pumped out. Maris's are a little different. Okay? But I'm gonna say due to old age and lack of use and every other thing, there's a hiccup down there.
So I will also notify him and remind him that he's got to set up a schedule for the water flushing up on the hill.
Mm-hmm.
And I will also remind him again that he needs to do the grease trap inspections. They're usually done around June. Karen brought that up today, so I'll just email him all those or whatever.
Okay. All right. Penn Township Supervisor's Report. Don't look like we're gonna get one. Evidently our paperwork keeps them happy because they don't make no comments to me at the meetings, so. All right, Dennis, you're up.
Yeah, we talked about this award and the equipment issue, which I think is, at least for this, at this point, resolved. We got a big check from him, and I need to, I think he got everything current.
Yeah, well, think again.
Oh, he didn't? All right.
All right, so now I'll give you the figures.
Okay.
So far, he has paid $2,500 on his tapping fee. He made a check of $500 in January, $1,000 in April, $1,000 in July. If he's paying $500 a month, he's only paid through May then, because he's only paid $2,500.
Okay.
His ready-to-serve charge was paid. His sewer balance is current. In fact, whenever he brought that check in, some of the money there was some extra money for the sewer, so Karen put it on that. So instead of owing $600, he only owes $586, but that's for the month of July. So he's okay. He owes that money and it'll be due August 28th. And his escrow account is still overdrawn by $1,653.59. It's more than last month because there were a couple bills that came in from Dennis for him.
So he's negative 1653.
359,
Okay.
yes.
So ready to serve, he paid, sewer, he's current.
Yep.
Tap fee, he's back.
He's
June,
back.
July,
Yep,
and I guess now August.
yep.
Okay.
And escrow.
And the escrow. Okay, yeah, I don't think I had actually reconciled that with Karen to see. I knew she got a big check. All right, well.
Dennis.
Yep.
I'm gonna say, I know he's in error. Looks like he's got things pretty well cleaned up. And I know he's a problem for us. Let's turn around. And since he is trying to play catch up, and he is, I gotta give the man credit for that, for everything he's done so far. See if he's willing to give us a structured time frame of when he's gonna get caught up with us,
Okay.
so we don't have to go through no legal hassles.
A time frame for the what?
Well, it would be the escrow and the.
Okay.
The 3 months, so he's.
You know, instead of forcing him to pay it by going through legal fees and everything else, and costing him money, and costing us money and everything else, let's see if we can do this on the nice side.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's about $3,000, that's right, yeah,
Okay.
so I'll talk to him, see if we can get a schedule.
I mean,
He got the bulk of it.
mhm.
All right,
I mean, it would be nice, he started out behind the 8 ball in January, I understand that. Same atmosphere, he did a pretty good job here trying to catch up with it. And if he's $3,000 in the hole and he can keep the rest of it up, put a little bit more down,
we'll get.
say, you know, by, I don't know what the line's gonna be, let's just go worst case scenario. Say by the end of the year, it's all cleared up and gone, he's paid up. okay? I'm not
Okay.
saying that that's the number I'm looking forward to, I'd like to see
Right.
it done sooner. But that would be a worst-case scenario of if he made quarterlies,
Okay.
you know, he's still looking at 2 quarters to get there.
All right.
I mean, he's finally got the hole filled in, he's got DEP taken care of, he took care of all that mess, and he had those things to address. And I've been watching what's going on down there. And he gave us the information for the recorder, okay? He's not playing hardball, he seems to be working with us.
Getting there.
Although he is the one that's behind on an agreement that he agreed to agree to over a year and a half ago. But I do realize that that's a pretty good significant outlay. Okay?
I'm with you. The Haldeman Button, I wrote to him July 8th, and I have heard nothing, and I believe Karen told me that she has heard nothing, and not seen a resolution of the problem on the site, so,
Yes,
I guess what did I threaten to do? We would estimate,
we were going to bill him for 2.
well then,
And I didn't do it this month,
Yeah.
I didn't, August 1st I sent out the bills, but, you know, the letter had only gone out July 8th, so
well.
I guess next month I will bill him for 120.
Yep.
If Karen, when Karen does the reading next month, if the button's not there.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, works for me.
Yeah, he apparently ignored the situation completely.
I agree with it.
Okay.
Okay?
Let's see, delinquencies, we had, I think I sent an email around, there were several sales. We'll get paid, I think it's mid-August is when they disperse on those, so there'll be some funds coming to you from the 3 properties that were actually sold. There was a bankruptcy filed, can't think of his name.
Is that Roush?
Yeah. So we're gonna have to deal with that when I get the, his bankruptcy. He'll file what they call a Chapter 13 plan to get caught up, and we'll see what that is. Should I use names or numbers, or doesn't matter?
I don't care.
I say use the names,
Yeah, we've been using names.
but it's easier because she has them in numbered order here, so to find them, it's probably easier to use
Well,
numbers.
We talked about the Blumenstock property a little bit earlier. That is in the middle of a refinancing. I spoke to the bank. We will get paid shortly after August 22. That one will be paid current. That's the settlement date on the completion of the refinancing. So she'll have our current numbers. Daimler, we're gonna be on in this month, later this month, for a hearing on trying to get that back on track with the bankruptcy court judge. I have one that's gonna be going up, I've prepared the paperwork for it, which is 1841 Thompson. That'll be filed with the sheriff for a sale. The other one that I prepared to file was Keith Howell. He was in touch with Karen. I was in touch with the lender, which I believe prompted him to get in touch with Karen. And he's setting up a payment plan, so it looks like we'll give him an opportunity to get that caught up. I wrote about McPherson because that one is supposed to be paid. It's been delayed in the bank, and I emailed a note to the lady I had been dealing with there to find out what the status of that is. They were going to get paid in full. It's just a question of how quickly, and it's been a while, so we should be getting it any time.
Was that sold, Dennis?
I don't think so.
I don't know, somebody's living there.
Oh, is there somebody in there?
Well, I think they're living in that little camper.
Well, they've
behind
been
it.
living in the camper all
Yeah.
along.
Well, because there was 3 trash bags out the other night.
All right. And that's behind the house?
That's
Yeah.
behind the house, so they're living on the and you're right, they've been living there for a long
All
time.
along, yeah.
What is that?
McPherson's,
McPherson.
at the end of the ramp.
It had the blue tarp on it.
Okay, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, they're probably running a trailer into the house for
Probably, and I mean, I brought that issue before the township for how long, because that's illegal. I mean, you cannot live in a camper trailer.
Okay. I think we're closing in on that one. I'll get back to you. Bunch of liens filed. And we'll keep track of them. I prepared a proposed revision to the rates, rules, and regs to deal with this issue of what happens to EDUs that are being used, not just bought and reserved for use, but actually being used, and then the use changes, specifically sheets.
Or they become vacant use.
Yes.
It's the easiest way to explain.
This isn't something that needs to be acted on immediately. I just did a draft. I put some years and time frames in that kind of tracks the other thing about when people reserve capacity and don't use it, that you'll buy it back, up to a 10-year time frame, and then it's, if they don't request a buyback, it's lost. This is something you can, I guess we'll need to get one to Sam. Can you do that?
I'll put that in his packet, and is there an extra one that I can have for the minutes?
Yeah.
Just to follow along?
Yeah, I can print one.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be like I prepared it here,
This
folks.
is very similar to what we already have.
It is. It is. Yeah, it's similar to section 6.80 if you pull out your rates, rules, and regs and look at it. That, though, that is there's something wrong with 6.80. When you look at it, it says 10-year period, but then when you get down to the bottom, it says after 9 years, there will be no reimbursement. So when I did that one, I made it 50% for up to the end of 6 years. So the math kind of comes out that you still get 10% in the 10th year, between 9 and 10. But it doesn't have to be that way either. These should be consistent.
But at the end of the 10th year, if nobody does anything,
It's gone.
It's gone.
It's gone. But we should either change what I drafted to track 6.80, or probably change 6.80. You can look at them and decide which one you prefer. It's a little misleading because it says you have to be used within a 10-year period, but then down here it's essentially saying after 9 years.
Well, because after 9 years, you're into the 10th year.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I like your new language better. This says between years 9 and 10, and I like that. The other says after 9 years, which would lead you to think, well, okay, you're in the 10th year, so too bad.
But as I say, you don't have to. If you have any thoughts, think about it, compare the language, and we'll.
Okay, once we get to the 10th year, though, 10%'s gone.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, once you get,
Well,
once the 10th year is ended, or when you get to the beginning of the 10th year?
the way I drew it up, it's when the 10th year is ended.
That's what I'm getting at. That's the difference between
That's
these.
the difference between the, yep.
That's the
That-
difference between them.
The existing one, 6.8 or whatever it is, that really only gives you, that gives them 9 years.
I like the idea of the 9 years.
Okay.
Okay, the reason I'm saying that, Dennis,
Okay.
is come the 10th year, it's technically a 10-year cycle, okay? Because you go to year 1, you got 1.
Okay.
But at the end of the 9th year is 10 years.
Well, I can easily.
Am I correct, Cece?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
you start from 0 to 1, from 1 to 2, 1 to 3, blah, 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 blah. And once you get to 10, it's 10. You're actually giving them 11 years on the way you got it drawn up.
Well, I wonder if this should be changed to 9 here, though.
Well, here, no,
Instead
no,
of
no, no, Dennis, the way I read that is, if the EDUs are not used within a 10-year period from date of purchase, okay, from date of purchase, which is 0, like I'm talking about, to 10, okay, the 10th year is 0. It's the way it's worded, I agree with what, read that, Cece, tell me if you think that's the way I'm reading
Yeah, I
it.
can easily change that wording.
The way you got this, it's actually gonna cycle into the 11th year.
Yeah, at 10 years, you're nothing. Yep.
The 10th
Once
year
you-
is
once-
0,
Yep, once
okay?
you hit the 10th year, it's 0.
Okay?
Yep,
Okay.
yeah, according to that.
Yeah,
According to that.
I can easily change that. And what I structured it from the date of last usage, because in a situation like Sheets, I don't know how else you start it when they're not using the
okay.
EDUs anymore. The question is, how do we know? We won't always know, I guess.
Well, we will know,
We will.
technically, probably because there should be a demo permit that would come out from the township. Like in that case of the car wash down there, there should be a
Well-
demo.
And we would know from Rick, they're all metered too, right?
Yes.
I was gonna say,
Okay, non-residential.
That's the only
So
way.
we're gonna-
I
we'll have a couple
wouldn't,
ways.
that
Now,
don't
when the
get
meter
a
becomes
demolition
zero,
notice.
It becomes a, okay? Now, the only question I have about this is, says non-residential properties, the way you worded this, okay? What's this say? It doesn't say that.
Yeah.
To say if
Well,
It
it's
just
a
says developer,
developer,
okay?
yeah.
Now, here's where I'm getting at. Why do we want to force a 1 EDU business customer at 10 years, we pull that EDU? That's not fair to that lot. It terminates all
I see.
abilities,
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
okay? We, like, just a good example is gonna be
I see what you're
the
saying.
motel down there. That's vacant now. There's no grinder pump in it, okay? At the end of 10 years, we pull everything. They have no service at all. They have no EDUs, they have nothing. We took it.
Do you want it to apply only to any EDUs over 1?
I think that would be fair,
Yeah.
Well, the motel has 2.
okay?
Just, that's a moot point, obviously, but
Yeah. But you see where I'm going with this? I mean, we need to protect ourselves when we got somebody out there that's got more than 2 or 3. The ones that are out there that got 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 of them, they're the ones we want to get back because they can feed 2 or 3 extra businesses, okay? The one that's got 2 or 3 EDUs is not going to make or break the system. And that could be very valuable for the next business that goes in there.
Well, do you-
Means a difference of a business going or not.
Going or not going in, okay? I mean, I'm even reluctant to go to the point of,
You want a grandfather too? or-
we ought to grandfather something. I don't know what it is, but 2 would probably be, 2 EDUs, that's, you know,
I don't have any quarrel with that. I think that's reasonable.
you understand what I'm saying? But to take everything from a vacant business
No,
lot?
no.
I mean, the Citgo's got what, 1? 2?
no, Sitco would have 1. I think the Doyle was because it was had a restaurant, or the Quail Call has 2, I know, and I think that's why Doyle has them.
Mm-hmm.
I just forget. Some of them, I'm amazed at how many they have. VFW's got 3,
Right.
you know.
But I mean, it protects them with the ability that they can expand without having to go out there and cause problems. Or
Right.
if something picks up business-wise, they don't have this repercussion.
Yeah, I'll put, how about I do 2? I'll
Anything over 2.
exclude the first 2. And it would all, well, I guess it would all be sort of non-residential by definition, because, yeah.
I mean, in all seriousness, with the 0 reading we're getting from Morrison's, you could turn around, the way
Yeah,
this is
sure.
worded, you could actually pull his at the end of 10 years if he didn't use that 1.
Okay, with the wording with being non-residential, this is really out there, but, the heck's his name, the apartments above, it was Miller's old place above me.
Beamer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Louis Beamer, okay. Now, how many does he have, like 4 or 5 with that apartment building?
Mhm.
Okay, if he were to redo things and decide just to make that 2 apartments in that house, that's still residential, even though that's basically commercial, because it's an apartment,
Yeah, it's still,
it's still residential.
it's residential.
But it's considered a commercial lot.
Right, but do we want to say
No, it's not. It's considered, we consider things residential or non-residential.
Right, I understand that. I know we do, but I understand.
I mean, that's the way it's always been broken down, but
Well, I can take the
But
note
somebody
out.
could tear that building down there and turn around and put a business there.
Right,
that's true.
Okay, so we got to be open to that process,
right.
okay? We don't, and I see where the, I'm not even sure we wanna put that as a non-residential. I think we
That's
need to
what
keep
I'm-
that completely
Yeah,
open.
let's
Yeah,
just take
that's
it
what
out.
I'm saying, because if a use changes on something, we don't wanna
Ah.
pigeonhole ourselves.
Okay.
Yeah,
you know.
I'll take the reference to non-residential
I
adverts.
mean, let's face it, he's got,
Apply across the board.
just say he's got 5 EDUs there, okay? That's valuable. Somebody goes in there, demos that house down and builds something in there that's gonna use 5 EDUs as a business. There's no difference
Okay.
in our regards.
Yep. Yeah, I'll take a crack at making some of these changes. And this doesn't have to be 10 years for this. I just tracked it because that's what you had for the other one.
I think the
If you want
10-year
this to be
window's
shorter,
fair.
that's
You're not
okay.
out there trying to take something back from somebody before they got a possibility. 10 years moves very fast, okay? The biggest problem is do we have the ability to track it within our own structure and keep it happening for 10 years, okay?
Yeah, we can start a spreadsheet.
Because in 10
Assuming
years,
if
we
you-
may all change in here, and who's gonna remember it?
Right.
Well,
So you're gonna
checking-
have to keep it in a structured format somewhere.
But, you know, Susan, you're checking these, periodically, you check to make sure that people have bought the EDUs they're using.
Yeah, I just
So
haven't
what
done it.
you're gonna do is show
usually
it the
quarterly.
reverse way. You're gonna show, like you do sometimes, my God, they're not using their EDUs. That should trigger somebody to start to track it, I hope, as long as we're doing that.
I just don't, I'm glad to see everybody thinks we're gonna be here forever, but I'm pretty sure that it's not possible, and I hate to say that.
So once it's approved, it would start right then, and so we would send notices. In the case of the Forer lot, that's a Mr. Dubrinoff in Dillsburg, so he gets a letter saying he only has 2 down there, so it wouldn't matter. But if he had 4, we would send him a
Right.
letter and say, you've got 10 years, or we take, okay.
I think so, I think.
Okay.
You give the notice.
understand
I
it.
mean,
you're
Sheets
gonna
is,
look better
I
at
mean,
the
some
end.
of our big EDUs, Sheets
Sheets.
is one of them, I mean.
Yeah.
Well, we had sent letters to different ones, like Forbus and different ones that
Had the
that
extras.
had
Yes.
extra if they wanted to
Sell
sell them
them,
back,
yeah.
and they
Yeah, we
didn't.
did we did one. What was it?
Oh, we did a bunch of them. We sent a bunch of letters out.
But we did buy some back off of
Oh, we bought it back from Rohrbus.
For a bus.
Big B.
Big B.
Big B, they
Yeah.
had 4.
They're the only ones,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
Yeah.
this change will give them incentive to sell them back.
That's right.
They'll lose them.
Question
Right.
I got for you, Susan, while we're talking about this. The Barrick building,
Yes.
are we square with them on the amount of EDUs that's being used there? I thought we were, at one time, I thought they were putting more in than what
They
we-
were, and then they
They
dropped. And,
They dropped it?
And then
Okay.
we stopped because that was another case where we couldn't charge them capacity because we didn't have it.
That's right, but it did drop?
I have not done it. How about if next month I get you the audit? I used to do that quarterly and I stopped, so let
The
me put
reason
that
I'm
on my
asking you
to-do
that
list,
is-
is get another sewer audit.
The reason I'm asking you that is with the relief of what's gonna happen with other things on that line, that might open things up.
Right.
Okay, that's what we wanna keep in mind here.
It sounds like rain, but I didn't know it was supposed to.
It looks like it.
It does sort of look like.
Okay. All right, I'll get you the
Okay.
sewer audit.
As far as, this 1109's property, the State Road Smith, I wrote to the lender that bought that back, advised that we need to deal with this septic tank problem, so I'm asking them to contact me to discuss.
That was the bank?
Yes,
Yeah.
getting that resolved. The beer connection, heard from Norfolk during the month. They essentially said, it's not our problem, it's gonna have to be Mr. Philippa or whoever's using the building, but they're not gonna do anything. But they did say they wanna see plans or drawings for whatever he's gonna do in there, and they sent that to both of us. I talked to him, he said that given these amounts of money, Roadhog's not, they're vacated. So it's just gonna be him, and I said, well, you gonna get another tenant in there? He said, I don't think so, I think I'm just gonna eventually all morph in and take the property for use, so it looks like we're now down to a
One
single user.
That's too bad.
But
Yeah.
let me
I mean,
see,
they moved to Dillsburg anyhow.
Yeah, I know that, but he was
Right
still
on.
gonna keep going here. He was gonna use it for takeout. You hate to see it, well, I hate to lose it. It was good
I
food.
understand that, and that, my problem is, but is it really the monthly cost of, because technically, they have the ability to improve it a little bit because of that extra quality that they got there. Is
Yeah.
that the right way of looking at it or wrong? You know what I'm saying?
well,
It's called a
keep in
business
mind,
decision.
you
Yeah,
did-
it's a business decision, but I mean,
Like-
Yes, it's a business
is
decision.
it really the one that's making or breaking it?
Well, I don't think the $60 a month would be, I think it's the tapping fee. Although you offered to finance that, so I don't know what to tell you.
I mean, we're trying to do what we can to work with these, you know?
So I'll get a time frame for him to, to get the work done, because I think now we're down to,
One.
yeah, he's just
okay.
gonna have to.
Tapping fee, what was the tapping fee? It's,
35.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with you, it's kind of a shame, but it is what it is.
Yep.
All right, I think that's all I have.
Dennis, I have two questions, I think, for you on those delinquent accounts.
Okay.
949, Grover Kisner.
Yes. The court has ruled on the discovery issue that was holding that up. I just have to get it back out, get myself reoriented to where it was with it, and get it moving. Let me see, how far back? Yeah, he actually has probably whittled the thing down to some degree since this all started, didn't he? But anyway, it needs to be resolved and completed. I'll get on that.
Okay. And the other one was 1113, Scott House property.
He bailed out the sale.
which Scott?
Oh, that's right, there's two Scotts.
1113.
Oh, wait a minute. 1113. That's the one that's right next to
Right.
1129.
Right, yeah.
Okay, the brothers. He paid the judgment and costs on the one I executed on. So I'm gonna have to, I told him I'm gonna be going right back out at you again if you don't get it cleaned up, so I'm gonna have to do that.
Okay. And then I guess Susan could answer this probably a little easier. 1160 on Smarts, making payments. Are they consistent?
No.
Okay. That's been on there forever. I think we need to.
I think she just, well, no, wait a minute. Penny did come in. Let me check with Karen on that. Penny was just in a couple weeks ago.
Because that seems to be getting nowhere.
What's the for sale sign for down there? Is that the
I
house
think
beside
that,
it?
I think that might be that lot where Stevenson's house used to be that burnt. I'm not positive.
Okay.
Because I know there's an extra lot in between there.
Yeah, I know the one that's the left with the foundation.
Right.
Yep.
Right. So I'm not sure that might be that lot.
I'm
I'll
surprised.
find out about
Even knows?
Betty. And I'll find out about Penny and
Okay.
send you an email.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and that's, it is getting to be an old one.
Yeah.
I think, oh, do you have anything? I think
No,
that's it.
that's it, thank you.
And we're not getting nothing from the big bankruptcy one, because they're required by law to
Well, that's,
keep paying.
yes. And I see that something is going to change, in my opinion, and I'm pretty sure I'm right. Something is gonna change after we meet in court on whatever it is, August 25th. Well, yeah, I forget the exact date, but it's later this
I'm
month.
really surprised that, because there's some other stories out here that it's all across the board. It's not just, we're not the only example. They're supposed to be stabilizing there.
He must be paying, you must be paying their more first, members first. You must be paying them and maybe nobody else. I did inquire about the auto business and was told, no, that's not the case
Just
anymore.
closed.
Oh, it did, okay.
Yeah.
But I did
There's
raise the
probably,
question about
I
that.
imagine there's a second note.
And his attorney was aware of that, which surprised me. I kind of thought it was something that maybe nobody would know about. Yeah, I think that's gonna change, Henry. I think we're gonna, I believe there will be a mechanism for you to be paid the current bills as they're billed. Now, how quickly we get the arrearage paid is gonna be the big question. The way it's structured right now is not fair, because the authority is essentially funding, well, maybe not completely, but at least in part, you're benefiting all the creditors that are being paid through the plan by providing continuing services for which you're not being paid. Nobody should have to do that. I mean, that's contrary to anything that makes sense.
That's right.
Well, I don't think you can be required to provide service for which you're not being paid.
Okay, anything else for Dennis? That kind of overlaps with the treasurer's report and delinquency accounts.
Yeah, maybe we should just put the delinquency account up with him.
It kind of overlaps right
Yeah.
there, they're back to back, so
It doesn't matter.
it don't really matter, we discussed
Yeah.
both of them. It gets you through yours at the same time,
Yeah,
so.
Well, it's not down much this time, but it should, next month, I'm hoping you're gonna see a larger decrease with some of these
it
funds
dropped a
coming
lot
in.
last month.
Yeah.
Well, the sold ones are
Yes.
only gonna generate under $5,000,
Okay.
so it's not a whole lot. I just did the math on that.
Okay.
They're not big ones, really.
No,
Every little
there's,
bit helps.
Yeah, every little bit helps though, but I mean,
down is an improvement over up.
the biggest concern I got is with this still staying where it's at, that come the beginning of the year, I'm underneath the idea that we're gonna have to discuss a rate increase, whether we like it or not, okay? And we need to be very open about this. We need to discuss whether it's gonna be 5 or whether it's gonna be 10. Because I'm not sure 5, just from the little bit I'm seeing in here, is gonna be effective enough. That's only reached
5 brings you
50,000.
about $4,500 a month, because you're billing around 900 EDUs, so $5 is $4,500 a month.
It's about 50 grand a year.
Yep, that's what it figures. That's what we figure, 50 grand a year on $5. You know, if you go 10, it's gonna generate 100,000, okay? So keep that in the back of your minds. I don't
Henry,
wanna be the Grim Reaper of bad news, but
Can we
it's
have
there.
a executive session after the meeting, please?
can.
Okay, I'd
Okay.
like to have one.
Okay, let's keep going with the,
Okay, the bills, $89,000 worth. One is for Michael Burgers, the installation of the valve pits for $15,000. IJ Tech, the grinder pump repairs for $17,000, and they aren't bills that he was just holding. It's just that, he's been pulling out a lot of grinder pumps, and whenever you take a look at those bills, I don't think that I saw anything with a really old date on it. I could be wrong, in which case I need to get on him badly, but he's been keeping up to date. He told me last month to expect a lot this month. We've started to get our bills from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania because they can. This time it's for the operator. Then there'll be one for having permits, and then there'll be another one yet. I think we usually send them a set of 3 checks.
When is IJ Tech?
What's that?
These grinder pump repairs. Do any of these get billed back to
I think is
the
that,
grinder pump owner?
I did not see any notes on there that it was due to
Negligence.
malfeasance or negligence. He usually writes that on there,
Okay.
you know. One was for the Lower Duncannon lift. I call it a lift station because Ed told me theoretically they're lift stations and not pump stations, so There's been a lot of work there. The pump's been going out down there a
There's
lot.
time, I know there's been times, I'm hearing a lot about that.
Yeah, so, that's on there, and I forget what
The
else.
one's rusted out, the bracket pump, the bracket's all eroded out on it, needs replaced.
And I think he did something at King Cora too, but I'm not sure. The water these guys, remember
Yep.
they said that they have him, they're waiting for him to give them estimates on a couple of things.
Mhm.
He does some of their work,
I
so,
understand.
okay. Anyway, 89,000.
Okay, what's the wish?
Second.
Regularly moved and seconded that we pay the bills. All those in favor, give their consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Financial report.
Financial report. Last month I had said something to you about adding money back because the bank statement was not agreeing with this. At some point along the way, I just screwed up on your financial report. I reconciled the bank statement again this month against our software that prints your checks and does your deposits, and it's spot on. So to make it say what this, to make this balance say what they're saying it is, what they do is they clear the checks and then they take the uncleared ones and they come up with the balance. And so that's why you'll see that adjustment there. We got some sheriff refunds. They're listed under the revenue. The ready to serve charge that Mike Ward paid to $5,400. I'm putting that into capital projects. And that's something else that can always be negotiated. The ready to serve charge really, well, I don't know. Those were for, well, he wasn't hooked up. So actually we charge, you know what I'm saying? There's a leeway there.
How much is there?
$5,400 is what he paid for that. Now that would have been, he didn't hook up, so he didn't use the service, but we had the right to charge him. I'm just saying that there, if you needed to negotiate with him, there's some wiggle room.
But he did pay for that.
Yes, yeah, the $5,400, that was part of the $7,000.
Okay, I mean, and that's where I'm saying we want to work with this man.
Yeah.
He's been paying, okay?
Yeah,
He's
he paid-
chasing it, but he's been fair, okay? I'm not saying that he shouldn't have paid up front, but I was thinking the same thing, okay? It's
like found money,
well, technically, he should have been paying it because he should have been hooked up and running.
That's correct.
Okay? There's no doubt about it. Legally,
Yes.
the money's entitled to us because it was already projected, budgeted, and everything else, that he was gonna be paying us that money, okay?
Mm-hmm,
That was in that structure, okay?
I agree.
In the same atmosphere, I understand what you're trying to say. It's, so, that's why I pleaded my case to the rest of the body in regards to where we are with them. Let's work with him to the end of the year or so, maybe, He's been fair with us, although he's chasing it, He's been a little hard, but he's not been one of our hardest people that we've had to deal with over the times. So it's, I keep that in the back of your mind. I appreciate that, Susan. I think the board needs to consider that down the road here. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Anyway, over the course of the year, you have lost $21,000, but you've paid big bucks to Duncannon. And you paid, I don't know, I forget what all. We paid a lot of money out on the Sunshine Hill Water Project, so.
Yep.
The bad part is really you have less than $100,000 sitting in the bank as of July 31st. And only 98,000, so
Okay, one thing I do want to make sure, I ain't looking where I'm looking at here. We are gonna need approximately 40,000, maybe a little less, when we do, what is that, Elm Street?
Yeah.
Okay? To give you fair warning, Susan, if you see anything, bring red marks up in regards to that. That's gonna be a big expenditure I see coming out this year yet. It
Okay.
will happen, from what I understand, it will happen. Keep that in the back of your mind. Plan for that, not, okay?
Yep.
Coming out of that, so if you see hiccups here, we need to adjust.
Well, you have less, you have $198,000. Now there's 40 going, so now you've got 160.
What I'm trying to say is we need to decide whether we wanna hold off till the end of the year to do a rate increase, or whether we wanna consider starting this sooner. I like starting the new year off with a different structure, you know, I mean, I'd sooner, if we can, struggle through to the end of the year, okay? You're gonna chase it a little bit, you're gonna run short on revenue a little bit, and hopefully we can, if we put $10 on it, it starts filling back up, you know?
So will the delinquencies. You're gonna get that trade-off.
Yep.
Yep.
I mean, and if we can eliminate some of these delinquencies and get the incomes back in, we could probably drop it another $5 in.
Yeah.
I don't want to, but
That was a mistake when you dropped it the first time. I really think so. I know it was a goodwill gesture, but
well, it lasted for a long time. Don't forget, two things came into play. We paid off the water treatment, we paid off the sewer plant down Duncannon. That gave us the extra money to run for a while.
yeah.
Okay, so that's finally taken its time. That's what, 3 or 4 years?
Yeah.
Okay, and you're spending probably at least a third of that money back into Duncannon on maintenance and repairs to keep the system back up, Jim, you know what I'm saying? Well, we're probably spending maybe a little more than a third.
Yeah.
Okay, so that money's starting to disappear again. It's getting eaten up with all the expenses and operations. So we bought some time, and that kept the rates down. And it's time, it's gonna have to go up, and you're gonna have to keep them up. Really, I don't see them going back this time. I really don't. So, all right,
We need a motion to,
yep, financial report, it's a motion.
I'll make a motion, we accept the financial report subject to audit.
Second.
Been regularly moved and seconded to accept the financial report subject to audit. All those in favor give their consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed?
the last thing I have is just I gave you a 2016 budget update as of the end of July. The good news is that you're only 9,000 under budget. Remember, we had said that we had predicted a $46,000 shortfall for the year, and here we are over half of a year, and it's only 9. A lot of that is thanks to Dennis, because we got a fair amount of revenue from the delinquencies. Had you not gotten that, this would be a lot
That was,
higher.
I mean, we couldn't forecast that. That
Right.
was not forecasted to be put in the budget, so.
No, you can't forecast that.
For what it's worth, Dennis, keep up the good work.
That's right, Dennis. Keep bringing that money in, Dennis. We'll keep paying, then we can keep
The
affording to pay
delinquencies
it.
keep going up, but we keep getting some of them back.
Some money back, yeah. No, that big one is the.
That's the one that keeps eating
that's
and
the
eating
one.
and eating.
Okay.
Okay? Any questions on the budget?
If you do, just see me. I'll, you know.
Executive Secretary's report, residential meter readings. Anybody find anybody that's interested in reading meters?
I got nothing back from the notice I put on the water bills. That must be mine. Somebody's calling me. I wonder if that's Jody by any chance. No, it's Ed, for whatever reason, not realizing I'm at a meeting.
Okay, so we still need to find somebody.
Yes, now Zini Bittner lives at Petersburg Commons, and she told Karen she'd be interested in doing Petersburg Commons, but she can't do the hill because she can't walk it. Okay,
Do Petersburg Commons.
what's that?
Oh, we don't have to do Petersburg Commons.
Oh, she talking about meters?
No, we're talking about
meter-
reading
meter-
water
meter-
meter
sorry,
readings.
meter.
We're talking about
Never-
water
never
meters.
mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that pay now again?
Well, see, that's her second question now. she gets $100 a quarter
For everybody.
for those two, yes. That's the way it's been when we paid Franklin. So if it got divided up, then how are you going to do that? You know,
Yep.
that's what she's asking, but I guess the first thing you need to do is get somebody. How else, how do we want to advertise it? I think she was going to tell Zini that the authority would like to have somebody that could do both.
How long does it take to do this, Susan? You got 3 hours in this?
Oh yeah, I bet.
Got a half a day?
Cause she climbs over fences, under bushes. You gotta get out of walking up and down the Sunshine Hill. Get out of your car, you walk for a while, you get back to your car, drive a little further, or however. That's a good point. It's about 2 to 1. It's 1/3 of the readings. There's 45 of them at Petersburg Commons and about 100 up on the hill.
Petersburg Commons is simple. You park at one end, walk down, and back up the other side.
Well, but you have to
There.
walk back in the fields to get to be over fences and around. Some of them are not, the buttons are in the back of the building, and so you've got to go the whole way around them, and, you know.
So it takes, what, a day or 2
Oh, no,
days?
she did, no. She does it all in a day. I just don't know how long.
Does it in a day?
Yeah.
Both of them in a day?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
it's just done once a quarter.
Yes.
Okay.
I had tossed that around myself. But I thought if there was somebody up there that wanted to do it.
We got nothing out of, now maybe they don't, I mean, it's right there on the meter, on the water meter bills. It was, I don't know whether Jim and those guys noticed it, but,
Solid.
okay, so, it was there.
Are you trying to say last resort?
Yeah.
I mean, your baddest one is the one that hits you in the wintertime.
Yeah, that's right.
January, right, Susan?
Oh, it can,
And March.
yeah, you never know when you have to, Karen tries to time it according to the weather. If it was a really
Yeah.
rainy day and she was gonna go out on a Thursday, and it's pouring, she waited till Friday.
Yeah, I understand that,
You
yeah.
know.
So you've got some leeway there. It's not like it absolutely has to be done on the,
No.
yeah.
So we
I
think
mean, if you lose it one month, one quarter, you gain it next quarter, or vice versa.
Well, it's not quite that simple, but yeah. Theoretically, by waiting 3 days, it could jump somebody up from 55 to 63
Yeah.
because the meter turns over. It wasn't going to turn over, but the day after, you read it, then it turns over. But yeah. However, yeah, it doesn't make a
I
big
understand,
difference.
that's an observation that you can figure out that, hey,
Yeah.
3 days late,
Yeah.
I pulled 300 gallon extra,
No,
okay.
I say you could just go by because the borough this time was almost 5 weeks
Yeah,
on theirs. So, yeah. We just, you go with it.
okay. So keep that in the back of your mind, if you know anybody's interested, needs some exercise.
Do we want to advertise it on the cable or?
Is $100 enough to, is that a reasonable
Well,
amount?
Well, that's another discussion.
Yeah.
Do we want to do something different? Okay, here's an example. Let's just do it and lay it out simple, 4 hours. Say it takes 4 hours. Say you got somebody that does it 4 hours, just simple. Okay? That's $25 an hour.
that's, yeah, and we're not taking taxes off of them because I don't intend to make them an employee.
Okay?
And then
I
more than
prefer not
covers-
to. I know that Dennis might say that, but it's only $400 a year, so we're
Okay.
below that magical threshold.
If you turn around, you take 5 hours. It's $20 an hour.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Okay?
that's
That's
good
more than
pay.
sufficient.
Okay?
How about if I ask
I'm-
Karen how long
What's
it
fine.
takes and get back to you at the JOAC meeting Monday night?
Yeah.
It
But I
probably
mean-
takes at least a day, don't you think?
No.
Doesn't take a day
No,
to do the Petersburg Commons and Sunshine Hills?
I don't think so. I really don't. I could be wrong.
Whatever.
I don't know. That's a good
Find out.
question.
Good question, find out.
That's what we need to know, is how long does it take?
And even if you turned around and took it down to 6 hours, you're still over $15 an hour, okay? So, I mean, if you think we need to put another $20 on it, well then talk about it. But I mean, I'm not out here to beat somebody out of it either. I'm just putting simple math to the number, okay? Now I realize that's just to do the walking. I realize that you got, from the time you come in here, you pick up the reader, go up there, read it, come back. So you're probably gonna, I mean, that might be done in a 5-hour window. I don't know.
We'll wait till Monday.
We'll wait till Monday and find out.
I'm
okay?
sending her a message, but she gets up
Yes.
at 4 tomorrow to go clean the VFW, so she's able to be in bed.
Okay. All right. JOAC meeting August 8th, 6:30. That's next Monday.
Okay, and I may not be here, I may be in Maryland, not positive.
Okay.
So let me know what's decided there about the meter reader and.
Okay. I will turn around and tell you one thing. Jim and me went to the tour, and with what we found, I should have said something to the engineer, but I didn't. The original pump was a cavity pump, and the replacement pump was a centrifugal pump. Okay? 15 to 75 gallon a minute for the original pump, and I have no idea what the other one is, but the original one was 4-inch, and the new one was reduced down to 2. Okay?
Yep.
So, probably the best case scenario you could have is you may be able to make both 2-inch pumps run to equal the 4-incher at the best case scenario, if they did it that way, okay? Now, whether that's a practical way of doing things, I don't know till we decide to buy one. But Jim and me both looked at it, the complexity of the pump that was tore out and these were replaced with. I'm sure it was an economical issue. There is not a doubt in my mind. What do you think, Jim?
I agree.
I mean, it was an economical issue that's gonna cost them more in labor in the long run.
And it was relatively new, was it not? I mean,
Oh,
would you
yeah, it's
say
within the
couple of
last
years?
2 years, I would say. I mean,
Was it
but it's
nice?
not like you can't tear these out and put a cavity pump back in it. So it may be something that we need to discuss with Duncannon, that we suggest that we buy one and put one back in, slowly but surely replace them as the money comes through. This is not something DEP and them's gonna force us to put in.
Okay.
This is just something that's gonna create an ease of maintenance and operation in the complex. It's just saving labor. That's all it's gonna do in the long run. And if you put a pump in, it's probably gonna last 15, 20 years. So, okay? That's where we sit with that. Incoming, outgoing correspondences, go ahead and check here.
Get the whole thing.
Okay, Karen says 2 hours, give or take, for Sunshine Hill. 45 minutes, give or take, for Petersburg Commons. At least is what it takes this old lady.
That's 3 hours.
Okay.
3 hours plus by the time you.
So until you're running around and everything else, you got 4 hours in this,
Yeah.
for sure. You know? And who knows who you're gonna run into that wants to talk to you.
Yeah,
You
then
know,
we get
I-
to talking.
That's
know.
probably the big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or tar and feather, yeah, depends on
Wow.
which way you're looking at it.
Sunshine Hills.
Okay.
probably like that.
Well, if that's the case, keep the feelers out. If there's a resident up there that is interested, if somebody happens to come in and says, you know, hey, I forgot to tell you, I saw it in the water bill, I'd like to do that. If we don't hear from anybody, then I'll report for training to Karen.
Okay. All right.
Okay, incoming, outgoing correspondence, periodicals, old business. You addressed the Smith property, you addressed the beer distributor.
Yep.
Okay. New business, do we have anything?
I
Yes.
have one thing. This is like the poor old dead horse that we're just gonna beat it again. but one Schoolhouse Road, now I know we haven't had much rain, but what was it, a week or so ago there, we had that frog strangler rain,
Yep.
and I heard the alarm going off. We've got an I problem big time over there. Still, it's never been fixed. He's never come to a meeting. We asked him to. I don't know what we want to do.
I know what we need to do.
Put that,
We do own the grinder pump on it, and we need to put one of them run meters on
that
it,
you asked Jody about, or
Yes.
Jody said they could do.
okay? That is, I'm gonna go simple math with it, okay? It's $1,000 for the unit, okay? We can run it, use it, improve the cycle, okay? When we're done with it, we can pull it off of that one, and we can move it somewhere else, wherever we feel we need to use it, okay? It will honor the run cycles. Okay, it's something that we need to think about if we wish to purchase that. That is an option, and I think it would be very valuable to correct some of those issues, because I do believe there is an I&I issue there.
Definitely.
Do you want me to contact Jody and ask him to get us an estimate, or what they cost, or?
You're gonna tell Jody to get in contact with me,
Yes?
okay?
And-
You do that, tell him to give us an estimate.
On, I don't know what they're called.
Just tell him, just tell him to talk to me about it, and I'll tell him what we're familiar
I'll
with.
call it a runtime meter,
Yeah.
just so,
Yep.
okay. All right. Boy, you'll have a good time with him.
Yeah. Okay, anything else?
In our meeting, Jim, do you want?
Yeah.
We wanna go to an executive meeting?
No, we want to talk about our meeting we just had here.
Okay.
Between, Jim and I and Bob Finnan and Jeff Kirkhoff. And we talked about, with Dan Green and Bill Siegel from Cedar Falls. And they would like us to redo Sunshine Hills. They are planning to, help me out here, Jim.
Go ahead.
They're planning to combine the Duncannon survey along with the new Sunshine Hills survey. And they're under the
Just
belief,
the Duncannon, just Sunshine Hill. Only
just Sunshine Hills, and not all of Sunshine Hills. They're going to pick out a certain percentage.
Correct, they always did that, right?
Yeah, and they were going to, wanted us to do that, and then they're gonna combine the Duncannon survey and our survey. And the idea is to get above a certain percentage, which they believe we will. The other thing they talked about, Jim, you can help me out here, they met with DEP and who else?
I'm telling you, DCED.
DCED, about the possibilities of doing a survey, an engineering survey of the whole water supply issue between Duncannon and Penn Township, paid for supposedly by DEP.
DEP, yeah.
Yeah, the idea is they would come out, work with our engineer and their engineer, and do an evaluation of what they think should be done, or recommendations. So, we are at a point now where we have to let them know, you know, what we're,
Okay, so,
Wanna do.
with that being said, our engineered drawings could go out the window.
no, we don't know.
Okay, but I mean, that possibility does exist though, am I correct? Just, I don't have an issue
No,
with
no,
that, I just, do we feel that?
We can't anticipate what the.
Okay,
the
but
study-
do we feel that?
The thing is, we don't have to pay, but we don't have to pay for this study, it's gonna be
Right,
done
yep.
supposedly for us. With the input from Duncan's engineering and, you know,
So you don't need to
Roads.
survey then Petersburg Commons or Lower Duncannon,
no.
because they had originally said that.
No.
Good.
They believe that we're gonna have to do a certain percentage of Sunshine Hills, but that's gonna be offset by what's been done in Duncan, which they said was 65%.
65% below
Yeah.
the moderate income.
So, and they thought that even if we have, which we already know, Sunshine Hills is gonna be a little higher, they believe it's gonna
As long as it stays
wash
below,
out.
yeah, as long as
Yeah.
it stays below 51%, we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
they
then, the
already-
next step is that they want to do this overall study, which we want to make sure is not going to cost us any money. I said, well,
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what they
fine.
told us.
Okay. We need to take action on this tonight, or do we wanna take
no,
action on
we
this
don't have to take,
JOAC?
this is just informational.
Information.
If we get to the point, oh, the other thing, they tried to lay out how we might interact with each other. We had quite a discussion about that, right, Jimmy?
Right, we did.
And Jim and I've even talked to our operators. General feeling that I get is we're more than willing to let Duncannon operate a system that we put up there. But, you know, come to an agreement on how much water needs to be served to Penn Town or to Sunshine Hills, and how much is available for service of Duncannon Borough. So we discussed all those issues, which might be it depends on what the overall study that we find, that the engineering firm, finds when they're done, they're taking a look at this whole area. So, but we suggested that we work through the JOAC group, that we have an agreement with Duncannon to operate the system, the payment of how much the operation cost would be dependent upon the gallons served and that sort of thing, and that we would run it through the JOAC group. They're asking us to look at a joint authority.
Yeah, there was several options thrown out
Yeah.
there. Yeah, one was to sell it to a private, like Suez or something. The other one was like a cooperative agreement between the two, and another one was a municipal authority type arrangement with a municipal authority, like we have here,
Joint.
combining representatives from Duncan and
Okay.
The other thing is, if everything works out, don't hold your breath, but if everything works out, we could be getting our money back.
Yeah.
So that's why we've got to get the survey done and back to Dan ASAP. I think they want like 4 to 6 weeks,
Yeah.
something like that, to get that survey back, so they can do what they do with it and come up with. They're gonna put it through a computer, and then we'll say, okay, we've got the whole hill, but we only want 25 homes. So, right?
Right. Yeah, they're not going to do it. They're not going to do every home.
They'll just grab
They're going to.
house numbers.
Yeah.
And that's where Susan comes in, or Karen, because we need a list of all the house numbers up there, Susan.
Their addresses.
And with the trailer park, of course, everything gets billed to our non-payer, but we'll figure
Exclude
that.
any well water supplies.
Yeah,
exclude
excluding
anybody
well,
that's on a
anybody
well.
has a well, right? And then over with Daimler, the trailer park, we'll just go through, we'll start at some point and say trailer A, B, C, D, E, F, That's the way we're gonna have to do that, because Daimler gets the bill, okay? You like an apartment, they don't want the owner's name, they want the actual resident's name. Like who lives in apartment 1A, who lives in apartment 1B. I don't think we have any like that up on the hill, that I recall.
No, they all have addresses, 22, 24, 26,
Right,
28.
that's, yeah, I couldn't think of a,
So we just give them the addresses for the
right,
trailer
that's all we
park.
need is just the addresses.
The only thing left is if they come up with a study that's not acceptable to either Duncan, Burn, or the Penn Township, then what happens? We don't know. That wasn't made clear. So,
We do have a real good rapport with Jeff and Bob.
yeah, we do.
Their rapport with the Duncan Borough is not as good as everybody may think.
Yep, I understand.
So, anyway, that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
It's gonna be what it's gonna be, and we're gonna see how it works out.
That's
I mean,
right.
It's the only thing you
know,
can do.
We
you
got
know?
to do what we got to do.
And this all could culminate before the end of the year,
Yes.
so.
But we're hoping to get. They already got their money. We're hoping to get our money.
Be nice.
And I favor the agreements between the two municipalities. I can't possibly see how a joint authority would work. That's my own opinion, but.
And joint authority, if you have five members, it's three.
It's worked with this, I mean, the JOEC group has worked well together, and I don't see why it couldn't work with the water.
But isn't that a joint authority?
It's not really a joint,
No,
no,
it's
we're
just-
talking about combining Duncan and Penn Township into an authority to serve both,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
It'd just be
You
done
think
by
that would work?
So, what you're
intergovernmental
suggesting
agreement,
is
like
we
the
would
agreement
own the
have.
site up there, but Duncan would manage it.
What I would suggest is that we would do the construction and so forth, that we would lease it to Duncan to run, that we would make an agreement with Duncan that they would serve maybe, we use 17,000 gallon a day, maybe say 20,000 reserved for Penn Township, Sunshine Hills, the rest would be delivered to Duncan Borough, that kind of an arrangement. Costs would be associated with how much, Duncan uses as opposed to how much Sunshine Hills, we could do it. I mean, it's not that difficult. I don't see that we really need a joint in Duncan and Penn Township
No, they couldn't.
authorities.
When you do that, then you gotta do the whole legal process.
Do we
not-
have
And we really don't wanna get into that then.
You're adding another, yeah, I mean, unless somebody can articulate a good reason why that would be
Yeah.
the best way to go.
I
don't
haven't
see
heard
any
it from
for
you,
it.
Okay, question I have on it is, all this work, where are we heading in regards to all of it? Are we looking at pretty much doing what we already had done before?
They're looking at it, they're gonna have this engineering firm look, go to Duncan Borough's engineers, our engineers, look at what we've got, and look at all the water sources in the area. This is the way they were explaining it, and to, come up with some recommendations about, how things should be done.
And they may look at our system, and I'm just kind of coming off the back of my head, but they may look at our design and say, that's great, but we need to add another 50,000 gallons.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's, okay,
Yeah.
that's one thing I'm thinking
Yeah,
of,
yeah,
okay?
whatever.
It's that type of.
We already have extra built into the system. but we-
150,000 gallon we planned.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but we had enough for developmental expansion and
Yeah.
everything else.
But, it's like, okay, it's not gonna cost us any money to do the study, they're gonna do it, supposedly. And we'll see what it says and go from there.
And it's just one step.
Now,
Before
The only thing we have to do now is do this survey up, and submit the information to,
the concern I have out of all this is we know a number. But we have a number that takes care of a water plant, and not quite 50% of the infrastructure. That number was that we had before, okay?
Oh, you mean a dollar number?
But you're
Yeah.
talking about the infrastructure in Sunshine Hill now, is that what you're talking about?
I mean, here's the issue. Somewhere along the line, you're gonna have to put an infrastructure to tie each together.
Well, that's gotta be done by, I mean, the report's gotta take a look at that. I mean, obviously. We can't sit here tonight and presuppose what's
But
gonna
I'm
happen.
just
There's no
explaining-
sense in that, we're just wasting time.
I'm just wasting throw a couple things out there, like, we may not get a total infrastructure upgrade on this. We may still have to spend money after fact for the infrastructure upgrade,
That's possible.
okay? That's what I'm throwing out hypothetical things that may come out of this, that, yes, we'll have a good supply of water, we just ain't not have a good conveyance system to it, which is still gonna create a lot of cost for us, okay? And with what you're saying, Elmer, if we have them lease it to them, we still own the stuff, so we still gotta put the money into it then. Still keeps us a little bit separate, and that's what I was getting at.
Well, and, really, I mean, it's no different than what we're doing with the sewer system, really. Really, I mean, it's not,
It's not.
it's not that very different. And I think it's working.
It's working.
It's working through the present system we have, and my own personal opinion is that's the way we should go forward with the water supply.
The biggest
also.
question is, how are we gonna create revenue to do the upgrades? And
You're
still-
talking about the distribution system. Well, maybe we'll get money for that too. Who knows?
I'm hoping, that's what I'm
We
looking
can
at.
ask for money for that too.
Well, we could, we may
Yeah.
go there, okay? But that takes it up to the 2 mil mark. That's where we'll be at, so.
Well,
All
anyway,
right,
that's
I'm
what
back.
that's what we have to tell you.
Is there anything else to come before this board?
You said you wanted an executive session?
Yes, I would like.
Will there be action taken afterwards?
No, I don't think we would take any action, but I wanted to discuss something.
Okay.
So you could adjourn?
Yeah.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Been regularly moving and seconded for adjournment. All those in favor give their consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Can you, I'll leave.
You don't have to leave, just
Take the recorder.
take the recorder, turn it off.